Hey there, and welcome to another Cigar Advisor Cigar Review panel, Cigar Review. I'm Gary Korb, Executive Editor for Cigar Advisor, and today, for this review, we're going to be smoking a new limited release. It's a private label for Famous Smoke Shop. It's from Drew Estate, and it's called Puros Huérfanos. Yes, that is Spanish for cigar orphans. That ought to give you a clue about them. We're going to talk more about that shortly, but first, let's meet the other members of the panel. He's so adorable. Puppies have pillows embroidered with his face on them. It's Jared Gulick.
Said nobody ever.
It goes with my T-shirt.
That's right.
And if he hadn't gone into the cigar business, he'd be working at a 5,000-watt radio station in Fresno, California. It's John Pulo, our managing editor. So
hello, friends.
Jared, welcome.
Nice to see you all again.
Okay, so I want to explain to our viewers here that for this review, we're going to be doing something very different. Instead of us all smoking the same size cigar, as we usually do, we're going to be smoking Puros Huérfanos of different sizes, okay? Now, Jared's going to be smoking the Lonsdale Deluxe. John's going to be smoking the Toro. And I've got the Robusto Grande, okay? So now that you know what we're going to be smoking, let's get to some of the details on the brand. As I said earlier, it's made by Drew Estate in Nestle, Nicaragua. Jared's Lonsdale Deluxe is a 6.5 by 44. John's Toro is standard 6 by 50. And my Robusto Grande is a 5.5 by 54. Okay. And the strength of these is probably, I'd say, in the medium plus range from the sample that I had. The wrapper is Ecuadorian Habano Oscuro. It's a nice dark wrapper. And the binder's Indonesian, but that's the only information we have on that. It's presented in bundles of 10. They come in 7 sizes. There's also a Coronita, a Corona Extra, a Bellicoso Fino, and a Churchill. So they've got plenty of sizes. Whatever you're into, probably going to find it there. And the Puros Huérfanos is a brand name that we've used in the past for seconds from Drew Estate. We've had other, cigars, so it's kind of our own little house brand name. But it was blended by Willy Herrera, so that'll give you a good idea that it's a well-made cigar, well blended. And the MSRP ranges, it's unbelievable, like 186 to 246 for 10 cigars. That's what I found from the sales sheet I was writing up. But believe it or not, these cigars are selling in bundles of 10 at Famous Smoke Shop as of today for $44.95. So I got 450 cigars. So anyway, got all that out of the way. And I'm just going to inspect mine. How are yours holding up there? John, you already lit up or what?
I already did. I couldn't.
I see the smoke.
I couldn't control myself any longer. Biggest thing as far as construction goes, I know you are. You're going ahead and inspecting it. I got an even brown color. The funny thing is this being a second. Well, I shouldn't say a second. There's a difference between an orphan.
That's why they call them orphans. It's overruns.
Right. Yeah. So these are first quality. So the interesting thing is the wrapper has some obvious veins. The seams are not at all as obvious. It's very well rolled and evenly rolled, and a little bit of raised tooth to this wrapper. And it sounds kind of silly to discuss this on a bundle cigar. But we have to remember that, again, these are not seconds. These are just overruns of a first quality and a very high first quality cigar that Drew Estate. I don't know what their plan is as far as in the future. Maybe they just found that they were sitting on so many of them. And instead of putting them in the usual packaging, put them in the bundle. They are now the Puros Huérfanos Famous Smoke Shop Edition, and this is what we're smoking today. But otherwise, for a $4.50 cigar, these days, it's actually pretty nice to look at and a good specimen for well-made cigar.
Absolutely, and mine was really well packed here. It's I don't show too many veins. It's nice and oily. It's a nice oily sheen off it. How about yours, Jared?
What I really like about them is that every one of them I've had, and I've had about 6 or 7 of these so far, have had excellent draw. There's not.
Yes, mine does too.
Bad apple with a bunch. So
It's just right, and I'm getting kind of a salty leather flavor. I don't know why. In all the cigars lately, I'm getting salty leather.
Well, you're not far off. I'm getting a sense of that too, and I don't know if the leathery is it's kind of a little sweet too, like cured,
Yeah.
not quite fermented, but cured tobacco. So it's kind of like that molassesy kind of sweetness,
Yeah,
but not
it is
too
definitely
overly.
sweet.
So it's got I wouldn't I would be okay tagging it as leathery too.
Yeah, but
I
it
don't
is
think it's
sweet.
all.
There is some sweetness in there that I'm picking up.
yeah, I agree. It's to me it's kind of like the sweetness is more of like a sweet wood, and then there's all this almost this smoky like charry character to it. It's not like it doesn't taste like fire cured tobacco or anything like that, but it's just got this like hint. Maybe that's what you're talking about with the molasses. Maybe that's where I'm getting a little smokiness from. Maybe it's just how it's manifesting.
Well, that could be.
So
well, I'll tell you, it lit right up real nicely, and got a nice
It does
even
come alive
light.
quick.
Yeah, smoke's getting up into my nose, a little peppery, up in the nose there.
yeah.
Well, I'm off to a good start. It's definitely got some zest, to it. At least these first
Good
few
word.
drops.
That's a good word.
I'm getting a much more peppery effect than I did on my last sample. But I just lit it up, so let's see if it rounds out. How's your Lonsdale going so far, there, Jared?
It's excellent. I will say this. If you're feeling a little bit adventurous and wanting to check out a different size, and you've had something from this line before, this is actually not a bad cigar to jump sizes around on, because the flavor has been, and even the intensity has been fairly consistent across all the different sizes. I've probably tried about 4 of the 7 sizes that are available, but for this Lonsdale, par for the course. Nice smooth smoke. It's definitely not hitting hard or anything like that, and I don't know, I'm enjoying it, and it's kind of hard to believe that it's at the price point it is.
How about you there, Mr. John? How's that Toro going, man?
Some of that peppery talk that you were making a few minutes ago, there's a big burst to that right up front. I would say if you're going to characterize this first portion of an inch, woody, peppery, and somewhat sweet, the smoke is nice and thick.
Yeah.
And what I really like is it's almost got that sweetness is kind of like, it's got a grassy character, almost malty, really. And
okay.
Even you can, if you take the lit cigar and put it up to your nose, you can even smell almost what that taste is. It's really kind of decadent almost in a way, and but
Very
the pepper. Thank you. But the pepper is certainly there, and this whole woody, peppery, sweet thing just kind of really lays heavy across the taste buds for the first portion of the smoke. Have any of you guys retrohaled it yet? Because that's interesting.
No,
yeah,
I don't want to do it too early, but Jared, go ahead.
Okay.
It's a little I've done it slightly, but it's a little I would say, you were talking about grassy. It's on the grassier side through the nose for me.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
Now you're
Definitely
smoking a smaller size cigar. Now my Retrohale, it seems to me to add some honey and spice, but more spice than honey. So it's kind of it sounds to me, it feels to me like kind of a richer kind of retro on a larger size.
Okay.
I just did a short Retrohale, and I didn't get any pepper. I got kind of more like probably close to what John had. I'd say it was almost like an herbal kind of thing, had kind of a dry effect on me. But maybe I need to just do it again.
I think herbal and grassy is kind of, they're in the same ballpark at least, I think we have more similarity than we probably realize if we went down and looked at all this on paper.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that, Gary, you talk about a drying effect. I wonder if that's a bit, you mentioned that this is an Indonesian binder. You know, I'm wondering if that has kind of a sense or palate drying effect, and maybe that's what helps accentuate some of the pepper here.
It's possible. That's actually a really good point.
I mean, it's nerdy, but it's one of the things that popped to mind.
There's someone out here, I don't know who they are, okay, but there's someone watching this video right now who's just like, that's right, I was saying that like 5 years ago.
I totally agree with that guy.
He's like, vindication, you know. So.
I was right.
Well, how about the burn? I mean, you know, so far, you know,
man,
the burn is really
great.
nice. You know,
I'm gonna beat Pulo to it this time. Stacking dumpers. Stacking dumpers.
How about some of that?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's good.
Nice white stacky. I mean, granted, it's only been going for a short time, but I am outside. I'm taking my time with it. But you know what? This is about the 4th or 5th of these I've had in this size, and they've burned with consistent flavor, and they've burned consistently well.
Yeah, this is my 3rd in this size, this Robusto Grande, and they've all been pretty good. That's for sure. They actually got. We'll see what happens with this one. I'll see how far we get on this review, but it got really nice and sweet and like very chewy later on. So we'll see if that happens. Jared, you got the Lonsdale, which is a very good proportion. It's, I think, did I say it was 6.5? I think
6.5 by 44.
Yeah. That the Lonsdale's a really nice size. I wish more companies made more Lonsdales. They seem to have kind of stopped making that size.
I agree, but the problem is it's not as popular. It's a very niche size. You know, there's a group, a small and loyal group of smokers who love them, and I'm fortunate, you know, that to be among them, A, and B, that there are enough cigar makers out there who, you know, make cigars in this size. But you know, I can't be mad at cigar companies for not doing more of them because there's just not much demand beyond what already exists. But I will say I am starting to feel this in my tummy a little bit.
Really?
Starting to feel slightly in the belly. But as I talked to you guys off camera about, this is my first cigar since Saturday, and this is now Wednesday, so that might be why.
Well, don't smoke it too fast. Take your time.
Yeah, I'm taking my time. So
we're in no hurry here. John, how about you? How about what are you getting now? You've got a standard Toro 6x50. That's nice dimensions.
I got a standard Toro, and you know, this is really a tale of, as you guys had talked about, some of the different sizes. You know, I think, you know, couple that with the consistency we talked about a minute ago. If we take that as a granted, and you know, my experiences so far have been, as I said, consistent throughout. You know, you smoke those different sizes, and it shows pretty clearly, I think, that there are some noticeable qualities that each size, or at least each range of sizes, really, you know, gets to showcase. And they're a little bit different, not radically different, but different enough that it's noticeable. You know, like I'll say, you know, this Toro is my go-to size, and I like it a lot in a 6x50.
Yeah.
You know, if I were personally smoking this cigar on a regular basis, I'd be up in this Toro and maybe Churchill size. Just, you know, just in that range, given how the flavors are coming together. You know, I think the Churchill has a lot of the same qualities as this. It's, you know, mostly the same ring gauge and maybe a little bit longer. You know, but it's not as intense as the Corona or the size that Jared is smoking. You know, those, and even the Torpedo, which I had already, you know, those I would say are invigorating by virtue of their size. They're much, peppy is a really great word. You know, at least that's what my taste buds are telling me in this, because you're going across 7 sizes, the huge range. You know, you're lucky if some brands give you 3 or 4. Here it is in 7, and you know, I think you can actually satisfy a lot of, you know, given the nuances, you can satisfy a lot of different taste buds.
Now, have you tried the Coronita?
I have. And again, that's like a wicked eye opener.
It's a little firecracker, man.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, it's a spicy little number. Yeah.
You know, the ring gauge definitely has a difference there. I think the ring gauge is playing the largest difference, not so much the length. So I would agree with what you're saying. But I do think, you know, just to tread back to what I was saying before about, I think that it's still subtle enough. It's detectable, like you said, but subtle enough that, like, if you're feeling brave, you want to jump, you can, you know? You can jump around without, some cigars out there, you go, a couple of ring gauge differences and it's like a completely different cigar. And this doesn't feel like that to me,
Right.
Well, I'll tell you, this one's really nice. It's starting to round out a little bit. I kind of like the 5.5 by 54. I kind of like a 54 ring. 52 to 56 is kind of like my range, and I've always kind of liked this size. And I noticed that it's been this particular sample that I'm smoking today, I should say, is a little spicier than the last two I had. So
okay.
it's crazy, isn't it? So, but we're speaking about sizes and stuff, and I was looking at some stuff the other day, and I thought of this question: do you think that the cigars people smoke reflect their personality?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. I think it really depends on the personality, because I've seen some biker dudes walk into Famous picking up Mac Cafe. You know what I mean? So it really just depends.
That's not funny.
It's funny because it's true. It just depends on the person. I think it says maybe more about who they are underneath than it does who they are on the surface. Maybe that's the way you can put it.
Interesting. How about you, John? What do you think?
Man, this took a turn for the existential all of a sudden. I don't know how to answer that question. The interesting thing is, do I think that it tells about what kind of person or what their personality is? Then I guess if you're going to use that standard, the fact that I rarely smoke the same cigar 2 times in a row probably makes me a little schizophrenic. If that's
I was going to say multiple personality disorder,
or a little MPD. I think it's maybe indicative of just a general pattern. Like, I've talked to some friends. One of my friends has decided that he really wants to invest some time in developing his palate and has focused on doing it with Corona sizes.
Okay.
And I don't think that's necessarily, indicative of his personality or it tells him that, tells me anything about him other than, he's really, taking the time to get serious about his cigar choices. And I think that kind of tells me a little bit more about where he's at on this whole cigar, lifestyle thing than, maybe what it is he's smoking.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I just thought that was an interesting question.
It's a great question. And, the thing is, when you were just saying that, Pulo, the thing that was running through my mind was something that my wife says to me all the time and how it correlates to my cigar smoking. And I think it's completely on point. And
well, chances are, if your wife said it to you, my wife said it to me too. So
yeah, well, my wife said to me, "You're never happy with anything. You're never happy with anything." Okay. And she would come out here right now. She'd be like, "I must tell him that 5 times a day." Okay. You're never happy with anything. And if you look at my cigar history, you know me. I'm always going to a different cigar. I'm always going to try something different. I very rarely stay with one brand. So maybe there is some truth to that it speaks to who you are.
Well, since you brought,
I think it very well could be.
Since you brought that up, it's very interesting. I think, and there was a time, and maybe I still do this to some extent, where I was looking for the perfect cigar, the perfect brand, that one cigar I could smoke every single day. But we're exposed to so many different cigars, the 3 of us, because of the nature of our job. We just, everything's coming at us,
Right.
I mean, as far as size goes, I would probably stay with, like a Toro size or in that range. Because that's just, what I like. Like Hal, Hal's only smoked Lonsdales as long as I've known him.
Right. Well, I'm down with sticking with a size. I kind of know what I like, and I'll stray outside the typical zone, the Toro zone, let's call it, from time to time. But I have found more that my cigar choice reflects my mood at the given time. So that also tells you that that also tells you that if I'm smoking a bunch of different cigars, I have a lot of mood swings, which you already know from us being together for so many years. You know, but it's a kind of what hits you at the moment. You don't. I mean, I don't just. There are some guys who can do that. They'll just reach into the humidor and pull something out without even looking and say, "Okay, I'm going to go with it." And mostly that's probably because they have it stocked with stuff that they know they like, and they can smoke at any time and be happy with it. You know, I'm more of a you know, not quite satisfied, as Jared's wife said, personality that I want. You know, maybe I want to try something different 7 times out of 10. So you know, it's almost like if you were waiting for me, you'd be like, oh my God, what's taking him so long? Just because I'll go through 4, 5, 6 choices before I say, you know what? No. I am going to smoke this tonight, or you know, whatever the case might be. So it might make people crazy, but
I'd have to agree with that. I guess we're always in search of but you know, like the perfect cigar. But like I said before, I think that there's certainly enough cigars that I've smoked by now that if you know, I had to smoke nothing else, I could choose one of those brands and I'd be very happy the rest of my life. You know?
Oh, sure.
So
yeah, I mean, you lock on to what you like.
Yeah, but it's part of the hobby, you know, just
Mm-hmm.
the enjoyment of cigars, just trying different stuff. And I think that's really the key. Like everybody wants to, you know, what's this taste like? Oh, I like the way that's, well, they make this cigar. Let's try that. You know, it's, you know, it gets into a whole thing. But John, I'm glad you mentioned this thing about the opening your humidor, because I made a note about, with reference to a cigar we're smoking today. I said, if you ever open your humidor, you know, you can't decide what to smoke. I think just grab this, because it's gonna satisfy, I think, a lot of things. You know, it's got some, you know, some kick to it. I'm finding it very well balanced.
So is what you're saying, it's an all-purpose smoke? Is that a good way to put it?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, look, it's right now they're selling for $4.50 a piece, right? It's, you know, it's not an expensive cigar. It's not super cheap, you know, but there's so many times I'll look in the humidor, and I've got like 5 humidors now, not to mention all the stuff that's been coming in from everywhere else, right? So
that's the other thing my wife has been saying to me on a regular basis. Oh, Jesus Christ, another box from work.
And I'll stare. I'll open the top, you know, and I'll stare at it for like 5 minutes, going like, oh, I don't know if I want to smoke that. Well, I'd rather wait until it, you know. But you know, I think this is just like a great, you know, just pop out that Puros Huérfanos, man. And I mean, I wouldn't say that if I hadn't smoked, you know, several of them and they were consistent in that way. But
as someone who smoked several of them myself, and at different times of the day, you know, I never really thought about that until you just said it. But you know, it didn't matter if I smoked it in the morning or at night before bed or whatever. Whenever I smoked it, it just always kind of hit the spot. And I agree with you. It's definitely, you know, any time of day, any situation, you know.
Yeah, I think what helps with that is the pedigree, right? Let's not forget that even though in under its Puros Huérfanos name, it's a $4.50 anytime, everyday cigar. You know, you might have been a little pickier if we ever learned what this was in its former life. You know, so it does have a lot of Swiss Army knife-like qualities that, you know, it fills a hole pretty wide. So it makes one thing I will tell you, and I kind of want to head in this direction just because you know, I had a couple of ideas about this. This is probably one of the easiest cigars I've ever found something to pair with.
Okay, let's talk about that. What are you pairing it with, or what did you pair it with?
Well, a couple of different things. So you know, this to me, you know, given some of the tastes we've been talking about, peppery, woody, that sweetness that we can't quite put our finger on, right? So what I've been sipping on, in case you haven't been noticing, is bourbon. This is straight up a bourbon drinking cigar through and through. And I will say, now today, as we talked about, it's a $4 Drew, so you don't need to break out your best bottle. I happen to bring out Knob Creek. I think that's
very popular, yeah.
So you know, you don't. It's good enough that you can shop above the bottom shelf, right? A Knob Creek is doing just fine as far as this goes, just because it's not hard to find. It's an easy pairing. It's got all the right flavors to mix with a bourbon, and you know, if you have more evolved tastes, then by all means, I say experiment with some of the other pricier stuff that would go along with it. Now, here's the other thing. If you're in the mood for a non-alcoholic pairing, and I have very rarely ever suggested this because I very rarely ever drink it, but I know many swear to it, Dr. Pepper would kill with this cigar.
Oh, I bet it would, man.
You know, I almost brought out the cream soda again. I don't. But,
that would do wonders too. And I'm going to switch. I got the
iced coffee today. So.
Yeah, I'm going to switch stream. You know, that's the thing. I'm usually a big coffee and cigar guy. I'm, you know, don't let the, you know, don't let the image or whatever you might think. You know, I'm not really a frequent, you know, drinking kind of guy. I'll have a glass of wine with dinner, you know, and maybe an adult beverage once in a while. Today happens to be that day, but I'm usually a coffee guy. But this, with Dr. Pepper.
Yeah. Well, you know, I agree with the bourbon, and I'd probably say on that note that it would probably go just as well with rum, a good rum. It does have a little bit of that, you know, Cuban-esque character to it. You know, there's that sweetness and that savoriness to it, and which, you know, I think I would totally agree that it probably will go with anything. Jared, what are you drinking today? Just what do you got? Anything?
I'm just drinking water today. I was planning on having beer, but there's no sick days at Cigar Advisor. I'm a little under the weather, to be honest. But no,
I'm sorry.
I was actually going to drink Peroni with it, a lighter beer, you know, and you know, I had purchased it last night with the intent of maybe I'd be able to drink it, but it's something I think would go. I think a lighter beer would go well with it. Something that's not got a lot of body to it. That's just kind of like what Pulo said about the bourbon. Just something easy drinking. You're not spending, you know, $50 on a case of beer. You're just getting a regular beer to enjoy with it, and I think it would go great.
Yes, it does not need to be expensive to be good, especially when it comes to pairing. You know, I mean, that's the first rule of pairing. If you like how it goes together, drink it and smoke it together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you, while you guys were talking about that, I was trying to let this rest a little bit more, and that seemed to help. And I'm just getting to that nice sweetness. This nice sweetness is starting to come out of it now. And I'm drawing on it very lightly. I'm not really like, you know, taking a big long hit on it. I'm just letting it.
You don't have to.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. It's really rounded out beautifully right now. So anyway, what else did I want to ask you guys? Are we at a point where we can sort of give an idea of like what the base notes are in this thing? You know, like the core flavors.
Oh, I'm plenty there. If you want to start us off.
Sure, go ahead, John. I'll let you lead.
Oh, okay. Again, a lot of that woody, peppery, and sweet, and that's that's why I say it's got that nice pairing component to it. There's that Retrohale is showing more and more pepper. The interesting thing for me in this Toro size is what I noticed is that the second to half takes on more of a roasted nut and dry earth kind of taste to it. And you know what was interesting is like for the first half of the cigar, you can actually lick your lips and it would taste sweet. And there's no sweetened cap or anything. That's just the sweetness of the tobacco leaving, you know, lingering on your lips. And by this point of the cigar, that's starting to fade away. And it's, you know, so I'll you know, it's almost like at this point, the cigar is saying, okay, let's get serious.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's so that for that reason, I would say I'll call it moderately complex.
Okay. That's fair. Jared, how about your Lonsdale?
So, I have some similarities to Pulo. Like he's talking about dry earth and roasted nuts. Mine's still more of like a wood and dark spices. I'm even picking up a little bit of, to be specific, it's very subtle, but a little bit of peppercorn. I don't know if you guys are getting anything like that.
I can see that, sure.
But it's not, I would agree, it's not overly complex. It doesn't have this like, here's a flavor, here's a flavor, here's a flavor, here's a flavor. It doesn't go through on this roller coaster ride. It's just kind of like slight subtle changes that go throughout the cigar. But I would agree that it's getting sweeter here too.
Let me ask you guys, do you think the days of the bundle bias are over?
100%.
There's so many good
Well,
bundles.
No,
They are.
I was gonna
They,
say,
they should be. They should be. But Jared,
yes.
you're right. I answered too quickly. Jared, you're right. No, the bias is not over, but it should be.
Yes.
It's over for me on this one, I'll tell you that.
I agree, because I still like, some people know I still once in a while, well, I did once in a while when we were open, moonlight at the store. And I would make recommendations to folks on bundled cigars that I knew that I liked. Mm-hmm. And I would see like the nose go up, like, I couldn't, I just couldn't. And,
right.
Until you could and you try it.
Yeah.
And these are just a bundle of 10, it's like a 10 pack basically. So, but I had some other notes on here. What I really love about the cigar too? I love this cheesy black and silver band. There's something about it. I don't know. Like I imagined, it's so house brand, and I mean that as a compliment, actually.
So it's kind of lo-fi.
Yeah, but like I imagine it's like if you were doing an ad for this cigar.
Yeah.
Like a young guy, very debonair, wearing a tuxedo, holding his Puros Huérfanos, and I don't know, I just love it. I don't know why. It's even the way, like the shield kind of, shape to it, and the little,
If you're watching this from an ad agency, Gary's got some talent.
Well, what's interesting. I mean, this kind of goes back to the bundle ethos question that you had a few minutes ago. Because it's just like, well, where did these guys put the money? Was it into designing a flashy band to cover up the fact that it's a Mets cigar, or did they just say, okay, you know what, we got these bands, throw it on because we've got all these and we got to move them, and whatever the case is, and they just happen to be, in this case, I've said before, this isn't my cigar, or this is my, this is kind of more in my wheelhouse than some of the cigars we've smoked.
Me too.
More recently, but this is a case where they don't need to dress it up with any of the fancy stuff.
Right.
No,
and,
it's sometimes so Drew. It's very Drew.
Yeah. But sometimes orphans, I don't know, none of us know the exact story of why these are orphans. We know that they are. But, sometimes it's like one of those, like some mom and pop shop down East Bumble, orders a run of cigars, and then, waits till half of them have been made, and they say, oh, you know what? We decide we're not going to do that. So now they're stuck with, 10,000 cigars. So I think it's more of along the lines of, hey, we're not going to drop any more G's on this that we don't have to drop.
Right.
We just want to sell.
True.
All right. Well, anyway, I'm really enjoying it now. It really just hit that second act, and wow, it's really, really nice. Where are you guys at? I can't see your cigars, but
I'm taking it real slow. So I'm about like
you're way down there.
2.5 inches in, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not so much moderation here. I'm kind of where you are, I think.
Yeah.
I again, this is kind of more of a smoke that's in my wheelhouse, so I have no problem, enjoying it and just sitting here and smoking it as I talk and whatever the case is. And I think that's why it's just so, easy for me to burn.
If you found out it was some like unbelievable cigar you never thought it would be, if someone said, hey, it's this, would you feel better about it?
No, it would ruin it for me.
Oh, okay.
It would, you ever heard, I don't know what the exact saying is, and I'm not going to try to rack my brain, but it's something along the lines of like the anticipation of getting something is better than getting it. I think this is one of those situations where the allure that it's just expensive and high roller material, but you don't know what it is, kind of adds to that, like that whole feeling of like, wow, I'm really getting a deal, because it might be, if it's $20 plus and you find out it's cigar, X that you don't like, and now you're like, now I don't like this. Even though
Yeah,
you probably did like it.
I agree. I wouldn't feel any better about it. You know, a good cigar is a good cigar, just
Right.
like, you know, anything
Exactly.
else. So, all right. Well, I'll tell you. Let's see if I can retrohale this thing.
It's a little spicier now.
I'm not getting any pepper or spice from this. It's pretty smooth.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, bro. It might be a combination of what of pairing it with something.
Could be, yeah.
I'm getting plenty of that pepper coming through
Yeah.
through the sinuses here. Wow, it's just
I'm laughing
it's
because Gary and I were talking at the exact same time, and I was like, spicy. He's like, I'm not getting any spice.
really? Oh, plenty.
Yeah, well, maybe the bourbon's helping too, but I'm definitely getting a little bit, at least a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Who do you think this cigar is for? Who would you recommend this to? Now that we've had a bunch of them.
What do you think, Jared?
Definitely not janitors.
What? What does that mean?
That's a joke that like 3 people are gonna get, but it's okay.
Oh, okay.
Used car salesman?
Yeah, dentist. No, I think honestly, I think so. Okay, maybe
John,
I'm
lighten
going.
up, will you?
Maybe I'm going for the cheap seats on this, but I really think this is a cigar for someone who's looking to be impressed by the value they've received.
Okay.
You know, someone who's looking to get more than what they paid for. You know how like sometimes you'll go on, you're like, oh, maybe hopefully this $2 cigar I'm going to buy is going to be great, and it isn't. This is for the person who is long overdue for a win. You know, on finding something that's inexpensive and good.
Right.
Yeah. I think from a flavor perspective and strength, I think it's really for everybody. It's a little on the bold side, maybe for a newer cigar smoker, but I would never prevent them from smoking this. I would say, go for it.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. You know, so this gets what you're saying, Gary, gets me thinking about how this kind of fits into the rest of the Drew Estate lineup, because you got to look at it from that perspective. Because Willy Herrera blended it. This is part of their regular line of offerings. So I guess that would almost bring me to a question of what is an analog to this in the Drew Estate lineup? Meaning, not what is it, but if you like this from Drew Estate, like if meaning what Drew Estate cigar do you like? If you like that, then I think you'll like this too. Because I mean, this is not Liga 9. This is not T52. I would say that if you find yourself enjoying Herrera Esteli, you will like this plenty.
I was going to say the Miami, the Herrera Miami,
Now,
so
that's not saying these are orphans of those. Again,
no, they're not. I don't think so.
We don't know, and they're not telling us. So, but my taste buds are telling me that if you like Herrera Esteli, the first one that came out, the white band with the white band with the red letters, I think you'll like this too.
I agree. I definitely agree with that.
You know what this reminds me of too a little bit now that you've said Herrera Esteli? And speaking of Will too, Norteñas. This is slightly reminiscent of a Norteña.
Okay.
Well,
I guess Willie has a signature then.
Again, well, yeah, I think if you're finding that same kind of vibe, then I think this would be at home in that group.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I tell you, I think it's let's talk about the balance. I think it's really well balanced. That's for sure. It's just everything seems to be right, where it's supposed to be for me. How about you guys?
I would agree. I think it's got again, for me, it's like 3 primary flavors, but they all complement one another. And if you're honest, that's really all that you can ask for. Who needs 10 flavors when you got 3 good ones?
Yeah. Right now, I'm getting a little more of that saltiness out of it, and like that salty leather, I guess you could call it that, and then that sweet spice. So it's kind of narrowed down to that, but I'm really liking it, man. I like it a lot.
I'll start us down the home stretch because I think it's a good
Okay.
time to do that.
Yeah, I think you covered
You
it
know,
pretty good.
I think if you do not like a peppery cigar, then
Mm-hmm.
you will not love this. But you wouldn't be smoking this kind of cigar anyway if you didn't like peppery. You know, body and strength. You guys touched on this before. It starts at medium. I think right
Yeah.
now it's ending up at about medium plus plus for
Okay.
me. I mean, it's really starting to stretch the boundary here before it breaks through. You know, before it breaks through the trap door to
Mm-hmm.
the level of full.
Mm.
You know, like Jared, I think you'll feel it in your gut, but in a satisfying way.
Yes.
You know,
Which
there are
you
other
should.
cigars that'll hit you on the back of the throat and kind of leave a lump back there. This one's more down here, as
Agreed.
opposed to that.
Yeah.
So, I would say try it out, starting with a larger ring gauge, and work your way down in size until you find the balance that you like. You may end up here with me at the Toro. You may end up
Mm-hmm.
with Jared and that thinner ring gauge. But you know,
Mm-hmm.
if you like feisty, go small. If you like sweeter and a more laid back type of smoke, then fatten up the ring size to Gary's Robusto Extra, and I think you'll be plenty satisfied for under $5.
I think that was very well put. Very well put. I think it's just got everything going on here. Jared, how about you give us your final thoughts?
I want to go out on a limb and say that I think that there's more value here than simply it's just, hey, it's you know, $5 or under $5 cigar bundle.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mhm.
you're going to. I think what's nice about it is that you're getting 10 cigars, so it's not a large commitment even at its price point, right? You're not looking at a large
Mhm.
commitment, and you know, the fact that it's a high pedigree cigar plus the price plus it's, you know, a smaller buy-in because of volume and the size. I think this is just something that's one of those just do it. You know, you have very little to lose in a situation like this. Very little.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, for under $50 a bundle, I mean, I would feel
Right.
perfectly comfortable sharing these and not worry about, you know, having been giving away good money. You know, but at the same time, I could be just as content smoking them all by myself and getting exactly what I want out
yeah,
Right.
I mean, you guys definitely, you know, I agree with you that this is an amazing value for around $4.50. You know, and I think that you know, it's on the bolder side, but as I said before, I think anybody could smoke this cigar. And
of
yeah,
it.
I am definitely getting that medium full kind of character now. All right, so the Puros Huérfanos is a hit in all three sizes, okay? And you can buy these at famous-smoke.com. Right now, they're selling in bundles of 10 for $44.95. That's pretty damn good, I'll tell you that right now. So I think you're getting a lot for your money. Remember, when you're on famous-smoke.com, you should sign up and get a catalog, because catalogs have some amazing deals. And don't forget to follow us on cigaradvisor.com for more cigar advice and information. And sign up for our email list. And we can also be seen on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And don't forget, if you're watching this on YouTube, hey, like this video on YouTube, and please follow us and sign up for our notifications there too. So that's really it for today, I guess, and this review for the Puros Huérfanos from Drew Estate. And I want to thank John and Jared again, as always. I think we got a lot of information out of this cigar, right? We enjoyed it.
Yes.
Covered all the bases.
All right, well, we'll see you on our next review. So thank you again, and happy smokes.